This is a really exciting time for the world in so many ways, where Bitcoin's going to completely transform the economy. And I mean, three things that are really major. One is Bitcoin's going to completely transform the economy. One is that AI is going to take all our jobs. And one is that stem cells are going to make us live forever. So Bitcoin, live forever, and lose your job.
That's a lot to contemplate all at one time. Maybe we might need the Bitcoin to fund the UBI or whatever is going to happen. But
propaganda to be effective, you don't have to convince people that what you are saying is true. You just have to flood the zone with so much poop. They used a different word, but you have to flood the zone with so much untruth constantly that at some point people don't believe anything.
But Bitcoin is a hedge against bad governance, against government spending, inflation, which you heard from the last speaker. Bitcoin is your alternative that allows you to deal with the major changes that are happening in government policies over time, and you're seeing it in many different places, and it's sort of, Bitcoin started in places where you wouldn't expect something to start. It started in Nigeria and in Argentina and in El Salvador and in Malta,
right.
Places where you would think new technologies wouldn't really occur, except those were the places where, in the case of Malta, it was freedom, but in the other cases,
right,
they weren't confident about currencies. And over the long haul, we're seeing government spending just, uncontrolled, and it just keeps going. Government spending as a percentage of GDP has gone on a rapid tear over the last 100 years, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down in any way. And your only hedge against that kind of government spending is Bitcoin, unless you want to hold gold, which is like holding onto shells, or
right.
It's like being prehistoric in your thinking about
Tim,
what we're seeing from our analysis is that embodied AI, that is, robotics broadly, that will be enhanced with AI, can have a huge impact on the United States competitiveness of manufacturing. So, for example, when we look at the fully loaded cost of a robot in the United States in a factory, that could be in the range of $5 an hour. Much lower than the average U.S. factory worker. Now, there's an obvious concern about the employment impacts, and what our work suggests is that the degree of employment displacement in areas where robots can have a role is greater than versus, say, agentic AI, that is software, where we see more cases where that will augment humans rather than automate what humans do. So we found that at about a 20% penetration level of robots in U.S. factories, the landed cost of products produced in the United States will be the same as a product manufactured in China and brought to the U.S. So that is absolutely huge, and that can change the mix of our economy in the United States.
Where will we see the biggest impacts first? Is it going to be in autonomy and robotics, or to simply put it, will it be in that kind of agentic AI area where in the coming months and years we will all have virtual butlers doing all the work for us and interacting with each other as opposed to person versus the robotics trade?
It looks like robotics is going to take longer, mostly because, frankly, we just don't have enough robots being manufactured. That's certainly the case in the United States. We're watching China and a few other locations very carefully because the ramp up is really impressive. But Tom, to your question, we just literally won't have enough robots. If we did, what we see is a lot of use cases in a bunch of heavy industry in the United States. What we will see, to your point, would be more agentic uses, everything from software and coding to in the legal profession drafting documents. It's a pretty wide range of helping you with your travel plans. A pretty broad set of use cases that is fairly gradual and it's going to hit a number of industries.
And as you
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And you know I come back with that video just to make you think. And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. Also, go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Bitcoin and crypto taking another dip like the Cryptoteacher told you that it would. But remember, guys, we're pulling back early. So at the end of the week, it won't be as bad. But don't forget, 2026 to 2028, it's time to build. And it's going to be a whole lot of rebellion if people don't have jobs. And AI is coming in. They're going to be rebellious until that universal basic income comes in. But don't forget, guys, they cause the problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with the solution. Guys, make sure you're joining the Patreon so you stay up to date of this movie. Because now we have Trump making it illegal to burn the flag. And why? Because they're going to be rebellion. And that rebellion is mostly going to come from the people that voted for Trump. Because again, a lot of people are about to be out of work because the rise of the machines. Remember, guys, they're getting ahead of the fourth industrial revolution. Every piece that Trump is doing, he's getting ahead of what's about to happen. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. Let's get into the video. And we have Tim Draper knows all about the fourth industrial revolution, hyping up Bitcoin and says the machines are going to take your jobs. He had that written down over in the corner. You see how he looks over to the glance. But then we have Andrew says universal basic income may need to be funded. Guys, we know the plan. And Tim Draper says Bitcoin, crypto, and AI is going to change everything that we do. And he knows all about the digital economy, like I stated. And he talks about the government spending, but he doesn't tell you that the government, the central banks destroyed the dollar on purpose to give the rise to this fourth industrial revolution. This is a plan that moves in phases. We printed 80% of all the money in existence in 2 years. So therefore, they could fund this new digital economy. Creating all this inflation would destroy a whole lot of these other countries' currencies, forcing them already over to the digital economy. So the emerging markets have already flipped the switch. And we'll have the rise of the machines 2026 to 2028. These corporations are already ready. We know China are making the robots cheaper and cheaper. Of course, when we see the pricing from Tesla, those robots are expensive. But we know over in China, they already have the factories up and moving. Again, guys, this is a plan that moves in phases. And these machines don't need a lunch break. They work 24/7. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. And we have the United States getting a piece of intel. And guys, don't forget who already laid out the blueprint for this. That's right, China. Remember what I told you in the NWO book. If you have, you already know your corporations are going to be your new government. And China owns a majority of their big corporations. That's how they control things, and the United States is going to follow. And that's the reason why these big corporations work together. And we have Gemini maybe going into Syria, and these large language models are getting smarter and smarter. And not just that, they haven't even turned on the supercomputers. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. Don't forget, these big corporations work together. There's no competition at the high level. They're there to go towards the agenda, and the agenda is the new digital economy. And then we have the Fed. Yes, the Fed may cut, but it's not going to affect the bond market. Remember, guys, no one wants this long-term paper. We have more and more countries getting off the dollar in their own currency. The only thing that's holding this dollar up is the central banks. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. And then we have Trump on flag burning. Of course, that's part of the First Amendment. But then they're saying if they attach a crime, then there's an investigation. But guys, remember, they're bringing all these FBI agents, National Guard, for something way bigger. And I already went over the basics in the Patreon, and I'll be doing a video. So guys, make sure you're joining the Patreons, so therefore you stay up to date with all the moving pieces, because we're clearly moving over to the fourth industrial revolution even faster than what I thought. And Trump is spearheading it like I put in the NWO book. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Intel has been left behind, as you know, compared to Jensen and some of our friends, NVIDIA, some of the people and the people in, because Intel should have never been. Intel was the biggest, most powerful chip company in the world. And then they started leaving. And they started going to foreign countries, in particular Taiwan. And if we had a president that would have said, okay, you can go to Taiwan, but we're going to put a 100% tariff or 200 or 300 or 500% tariff, anybody that sells into the United States has to pay. They wouldn't have left. They would have never left, and we wouldn't have. So in the meantime, we had people that were, in some cases, good politicians that weren't good on trade. I loved that man, but he was not good on trade. I totally disagree. He allowed the car industry to be taken out of this country. We lost 50% of our car industry. But that's all coming back. It's all coming back. But if somebody would have said that with Intel, would be a giant right now. Now, with that, they've had some bad management over the years, and they got lost. And I said, I think you should pay us 10% of your company. And they said, yes. That's about $10 billion. I don't get it. This comes to the United States of America. And I said, I think it would be good having the United States as your partner. He agreed. And they've agreed to do it. And I think it's a great deal for them. And I think it's a great deal. He walked in wanting to keep his job, and he ended up giving us $10 billion for the United States. So we picked up $10 billion.
As in early discussion, there's like Bloomberg exclusive about using Google Gemini to power a revamped version of Siri. Obviously, there have been many changes with Siri, many discussions, and it seems like this is what has been underway for quite some time. This is marking a key potential step toward outsourcing more of its artificial intelligence.
I mean, I think I've written extensively about the Fed, and then Fed rate cuts not really conveying much to the market other than something for us to all talk about. I mean, they don't even affect the one thing they're supposed to affect, which is interest rates, traded rates. They might affect the Fed funds rate, but Treasury rates themselves have a life of their own. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a Fed rate cut, whether the T-bond rate drops below 4%. My guess is it will not, because as long as inflation stays at 2.5, 2.6, 2.7%, the T-bond rate is destined for 4% plus. So it'll be interesting to see what the bond market does if there's a Fed cut. My guess is it won't do much, and stocks will have to retrace some of the upswing you saw today.
So what do you, okay. I'm not, this is the market's going to do what the market's going to do. I'm not here to tell the market it's incorrect. It's not my job. It's obviously interpreting it one way. I don't read the speech the same way the market appears to be. Do you?
Yeah. I don't either. But in a sense, in this case, I think the market views absence of bad news as good news. That Powell did not come in and say anything explicitly about not cutting rates. So I think in many ways the market is reading in whatever it wants to read into this process. I think the feeling the market has is the pressure on the Fed to cut rates is so strong that even if it's not the right thing to do, the Fed will actually cut rates. That's not a great thing for a central bank to do, but I think we're in that position.
And while the Fed chair paved the way for a September rate cut, our next guest says the Fed is not the most important factor for small cap stocks right now. Joining me to discuss this is Julie Beal, the Chief Market Strategist and Portfolio Manager.
Interest rates if we do start to get some cuts. That said, the bond market's really way more important to, where the 10-year is trading, and that's more important to small caps. And also the thing that's tricky about that is the presidential administration, they can bully the Fed. They have a much harder time bullying the bond market. It kind of goes the other way with that.
So the Fed and the bond market are certainly important factors, but as we've seen over the past 15 years, 20 years, given the great financial crisis, the Fed is still a formidable force in the markets right now. Are you saying that the bond market and bond investors can still fight the Fed?
Yeah, I do. I think that, we forget, but really the most important part of what the Fed is handling is the very front end of the curve, right? And if we think about what's happening in the mortgage market, for instance, that has really very little to do with the Fed. What's much more important is the fact that because rates were so low, people have stayed in their houses, and so you don't have this same turnover of prepayments of mortgages, and so most mortgage investors are kind of trapped in a lot of bonds that are, low rates with people staying in their houses. And so you just don't have the same level of demand for fixed income mortgage-backed securities. That's much more profound than what's happening with the Fed. And the proof of that is that if you look at what the 10-year did after Jay Powell's comments on Friday, it was not much, right? There wasn't actually that much movement. There actually hasn't been that much movement despite the rate cuts. And that's why I think that overall the bond market is actually much more important right now than what the Fed's doing.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. Just that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is.
Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record.
That he wanted to get more field agents out of Washington, D.C. and into the field, into the rest of the country. And I said, well, I've got just the place for you, my hometown of St. Louis. And of course, St. Louis has dealt with violent crime for a very long time. And I think what everyone realizes now over this, they had this flirtation the Democrats did with the defund the police and all this nonsense in 2020, is that there's no substitute for a law enforcement presence on the streets and then actual prosecution of violent criminals. And so, yes, St. Louis is going to get the largest infusion of per capita permanent FBI agents with intel officers with the sole mission of combating violent crime.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leverage to technology, and I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust. And we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important.
look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.